Okay, folks, let's go over again the first 14 days on OMAD. These are to be considered mission critical because you cannot mess up there and hope to have success. For those who are failing on OMAD, the only reason, usually, is that it comes down to your inability to stay the course during the adaptation phase. Again, mission critical. You should not be splurging. You should not be cheating during the first 14 days at all. I don't care who you are, because your body has to adjust. Now, here's the thing. People think they're out of the woods when a week passes on OMAD and they're just fine. They're like, hey, I feel great, I feel fine, this is easy. Beware when you say that, because no, you're not done yet. If you haven't adapted and there hasn't been some challenge the first week, it's probably going to be the second week. You're going to have on day 6 or day 7 a surprise challenge. I'm going to link to my older video, one of the first videos I did on the timeline of changes. Rewatch it if you haven't watched it in a while. The time brackets I have are very accurate there, but I wanted to revisit this subject because so many people get lost during the first 14 days. And if you splurge too early, if you do something like that, what you're going to do is you're going to run the risk of sabotaging yourself, and you're not going to even want to go on the fast again. You're going to say, "Oh, I felt miserable. I felt terrible." Again, this is trouble when you start to think, "Oh, I'm out of the woods, and everything's going to be just fine," but you're not out of the woods yet. Why? Because your body, old habits die hard, and it's very difficult to get past struggles for the way you've been. You're not going to go all your life binging and enjoying cake and cookies and ho-hos and ding-dongs and Twix and all the good stuff of life, and then you're going to get rid of that or put it on a structure where you do it much more manageably, and then everything's going to be fine. Your body's going to fight you. The inner child is going to come out and protest and say, no, that isn't going to happen. So you might make day 5, and then you break down. You say, oh my God, I feel bad. Finally, it's hitting you. It's like losing a loved one, folks. Have you ever lost a loved one and then you thought, oh, this isn't so hard? And then one day you're telling someone on the phone that someone died, and then you just break down? Because it finally hits you, the emotional gravity finally hits you, and then all of a sudden you're breaking down. Well, if you haven't had something like that happen, it can trust me, it can happen. You don't know yourself sometimes. That's the way it is. It's going to get harder before it gets easier. It always is. And it is because that's the nature of things. You really don't know. You spoke too soon. You should expect the following things during the first 2 weeks. Number one, the runs. It's very common to have to run to the restroom as your body's adapting. Your gallbladder is cleaning itself out. Your spleen, your kidneys, your livers as you're fasting is breaking in. So you're going to start getting rid of excess fluid. And it's very normal. Gallbladder pains are normal during the first 2 weeks of fasting because your body is readjusting, and it's used to absorbing exorbitant amount of fats. I would go out and binge on gas station hot stuff pizza and bags of chips and candy bars, and when I stopped doing that, my gallbladder was like, what are we doing? What's the deal here? Nostalgia hunger. Nostalgia hunger is where you think to yourself, those were the good old days when I got to pig out on Chinese food and Mexican food and pizza, and I didn't have to care. Yes, it's a nostalgia hunger, but that goes back to my video on fake hunger, which I will also link to. It is fake hunger. You don't need it, and you won't feel it. It's going to take time to break the wiring that's connected here that tells you need it. The next is ravenous insulin surges. This is very difficult to deal with because when you're adjusting, you get those ravenous rogue insulin surges in your body that come back as a habit of the way you used to eat, especially if you used to splurge on a certain type of day every week and you used to go out for pizza and drinks. Your body's going to remember that, and it's going to come back into full force to where you're going to get hungry, you're going to get shaky, you're going to want to sit down because your body misses those days of ravenous, crazy splurging. Now, if you don't have this, count yourself lucky. Most of us do. I remember being so hungry I was crying. I've said this on other videos. I remember pulling up YouTube and watching MMA videos, watching cat videos. I actually watched World Star Hip Hop like 2 hours one night. I was so hungry when I was adjusting because I wanted that gut, that knot feeling in my stomach, like when you're about to get into a fight. I wanted to bring back some of my own memories of street brawling and being a kid just so that I wouldn't be hungry. You know that feeling that you don't want food when you're about to fight. I was so miserable. I felt so bad, and it's because of these insulin surges. Well, the reason they're coming there during these first 2 weeks is because you've done, again, old habits die hard. You've followed your body for so long, your cravings. You have been a multiple meal eater for so long that your body wants to be fixed, and it's that inner child that's throwing a tantrum in the store. You got to take it out and spank it. I remember I hired my wife at the time. We hired a brief personal trainer in 1998, and he got so mad at us because we went out and bought a whole stack of Kit Kat bars when he wasn't looking, and we just stuffed them all down. We were so tired of working out and doing all the other stuff that is associated with healthier living. We hated it so badly because we didn't want to be hungry. We didn't want to fast. Well, you have a history of that, and if you don't want to repeat it, you better stick to the fast on these mission critical 14 days. And it makes sense. Your body's used to picking out. It's going to be hard. The next one is dull headaches. That's another sign of adapting, where you get a dull headache that's right at the front here that you can't quite get rid of. It just stays with you. Again, that's adapting. The next is fatigue in general. The bodily fatigue. You just don't want to do things. You want to sit down, and you find yourself not being functional. The reason for that is because your body's used to burning sugar. What's going to happen because of that? It's going to be weak when you don't have sugar. Your body hasn't switched over to burning fat efficiently. Or if it does so in short spurts to where you feel okay and then you don't feel okay. Next is dizziness and irritableness. This goes with the break-in period. If you have not been dizzy and irritable, you're probably not fully fat adapted. And finally, the feeling of imprisonment. You feel like you're going into dieter's prison. But this isn't dieter's prison because you're not playing the game anymore. And you have to remind yourself of that. You have to say, I am not in dieter's prison. I'm not going to play another dieting game. I'm just going to regulate my eating. So you're eating once a day. And you're filling your plate up no higher than 3 inches, nothing falling off the sides. And you realize that in time, you're going to have time to improve your eating method. But all you're going to do right now is regulate your intake, which is the first and most important aspect. Again, mission critical, no cheating during your first 14 days. It takes 14 days to really break past all of those bad tendencies. And when you get to day 16 or 17, you're going to notice a sharp difference. But even then, you're not going to be totally good until the end of the first month. And that's why I said in the first video on this subject, you're going to love yourself when you get to the end of the first month of OMAD, because you're going to say, I know I can keep doing this. When that feeling hits you, you're going to feel very liberated, you're going to feel very good, and you're going to know that you can keep going. So again, prioritize properly. Have the self-control that you've needed all these years, and the future, more improved version of you is going to so thank you.